So we're in the Biosphere 2 rainforest right now. This rainforest has a really unique history, and there's been all kinds of research that's been done in this system. When it was first built, the trees inside of here were not taller than 2 meters. They've grown up to the 30-meter ceiling inside of this building. There were 400 species that were introduced into this rainforest. Now there's about 90. So over time we've seen species that have been really successful and ones that haven't been as successful, just like we see in nature. Some of the research that has been done inside of this facility can only be done in a controlled environment like this. Things like increasing the CO2 inside of here to see how do trees react when we increase the CO2 inside of the atmosphere. Do they have a limit to that CO2 sequestration? What about if we put it through a drought? If we stopped raining in here for 2 weeks, how would these trees react? How would the soil react? How would the things living within the soil react? All of those things we can look at inside of the Biosphere 2 rainforest. We're able to scale and control that research. We're able to manipulate the different variables to find out things about our Earth that we have questions about, and we can do it right here inside this amazing facility.
If you think about the Amazon basin in South America, it actually interacts with global climate to influence temperature and precipitation around the world. With climate change, we know that things like temperature and precipitation are going to change in the future. At Biosphere 2, we can manipulate conditions inside this rainforest and look at the responses of the plants and trees inside. Specifically, we manipulate temperature, precipitation, and carbon dioxide. So we look at the water cycle, we look at the movement of carbon into the leaves for photosynthesis, and we look at the influence of temperature on all these processes. What we learn here can help us better understand what's going to happen on planet Earth, Biosphere 1, as climate change continues to progress in the future. You would never find plants like this in the Sonoran Desert that surrounds Biosphere 2. The ability to manipulate the water and the temperature is what allows us to grow a rainforest inside Biosphere 2. If you look at this leaf here, you would never see something this big in the desert because a plant like this would just lose too much water. Things in the desert have to conserve water. In the rainforest, sometimes you have to have a big leaf in order to get enough light to do photosynthesis. One of the things we study and explore here is the details of photosynthesis. How does energy from the sun and carbon dioxide from the atmosphere be integrated in the leaf with water from the ground to do photosynthesis and produce sugars, the base of our food chain? As the climate changes, the components involved here change, and that's going to influence the ability to produce food and oxygen on our planet. We talked earlier about scale and control and the value of Biosphere 2. This tropical rainforest is much bigger than you can study in a typical laboratory setting, but we can control all the variables. How do we know we're controlling them? Well, we have lots of tools to measure things like carbon dioxide, oxygen, water vapor, temperature, and other variables. So in addition to the above ground measurements, we also spend a fair bit of time looking at what's happening in the soil underneath. We've created a number of research pits that allow us to look at the soil. The soil here is about 4 meters in depth. We're able to put sensors and other instruments into the soil. We can also track where water is being pulled from by the plants, and we can introduce labeled water to the plants and the water in the soil so we know what plants are taking up water from what part of the soil under what conditions. It's amazing control and allows us to ask and answer a lot of very valuable questions.